Yeah, that's what I've been talking about right here. No doubt.
Future Solutions, fencing outdoors. Clip of the day, man. I'm Dave Gatto. I'm your host from the East Coast, man. Burn your wrist and toes. Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Future Solutions, fencing outdoors, clip of the day podcast. That's my new opener I made, which is really, really cool. I'm having a lot of fun with this new software, with these new programs, with these new cameras, as I learn about podcasting and what makes a successful podcast. And one of the things that I was reading on is it said, hey, your opener has got to be short. Because if it's not short, people's attention span is like 20 seconds. And if you don't catch their attention in 20 seconds or something's rambling on, they are gone. So I want to be able to bring a successful podcast to you guys, and one that's providing content that is valuable to you. And another really cool thing about this podcast, guys, now that we're on that subject, is that I'm not doing this to become like a professional podcaster or a YouTuber or anything like that. I'm not doing it so I can monetize this and make money off of you. I'm doing this so that I can be able to reach my hand down to the entrepreneur who's struggling and pull them up to my level so they can hopefully go past my level of success. And it's also, through these stories that I'm telling, that I'm going to be able to encourage the person who's on the fence, quote, to starting their company. The person that thinks that they have to continuously keep planning this thing out, they got to continuously keep saving for it, all that stuff. I want to be able to show you guys through my story, and this podcast platform will eventually change as we get guests and stuff on here and things like that, which I have a line of guests for you guys already lined up. But I want to be able to show you guys through my story, like I'm saying, how I was able to start this company while I was still living in a recovery house with no money whatsoever, no vehicle, no driver's license, criminal record, everything that can possibly be going on to hold a person back. I went and did it. So if you're listening to this, if I did it, you can do it too. Okay? The great separator is work and consistency. You put the work in, you get the results. And when you don't see the results and you keep doing it anyways, you'll start to get results. That's the consistency part. So with all that being said, guys, I just want to jump into this episode. This is episode number 7. In episode number 6, we were talking about I had just gotten popped by the township and the EPA for working without a permit. The job was red tagged and shut down. And all these issues had popped up about my business licenses, my insurances, all this legal stuff that I do not have in place. I don't even have a business bank account at this point. So anyways, I find myself going to an attorney, and actually it was an attorney that a friend of mine, Rick Jones, had set up for me. I mean, he did the whole thing. I didn't ask the guy to do it. He's like a philanthropist, and he's just a really, really good guy. And one day he says, Dave, go down and talk to my lawyer. This is probably the one thing that somebody had offered me that I had actually taken through my company and said, okay, I'll do it. And so I go to this attorney, and he's talking about the different legal structure, and he says, okay, Dave, he said, we could set this up so you're a sole proprietorship, and you can call it Dave Gatto LLC, or Dave Gatto Enterprises, or whatever you want to call it. But so the thing is with a sole proprietorship, you assume all liability. So like, let's say something happens on a job site and somebody gets injured, I'm personally responsible for it. So I could be sued for my personal assets, my company. Everything's just jumbled up into one. There's no separation. So in my industry, that's not sounding very appealing at all. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound too smart. Not for me. Maybe for a different business structure, but not for me. So then he starts talking about a single member LLC, which I am a single member LLC. So the thing with the single member LLC is that now there's two separate entities. It creates a separation, a buffer between you and the actual company. So it greatly reduces my personal liabilities. So on one side, there's me, There's my personal car, there's my house, there's my personal assets, there's my personal bank account. All the stuff associated to me is over here, right? Then over here is the LLC. So now, if something happens, the LLC gets sued, although my personal assets cannot get touched. So it creates that separation. And I mean, let's face it, guys, in business, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of liability. Things can happen, gas lines could get hit, houses could get blown up, people get killed, vehicles get wrecked, all types of different things. And some of these things that I have experienced through my career. So it's very important that you talk to an attorney when setting up the different legal structures. And of course, there's a lot of tax ramifications, things that go in, having holding companies and sister companies, and connecting companies together. There's all kinds of different tips and tricks that you can do, which we could talk about in later episodes, where we could actually reap tax benefits and even create an extra layer of protection in our business. And one thing that I had done is I took it a step further. So not only am I an LLC, but I'm an S Corp now. So I had elected to be an S Corp. So all that protection is still there. The big difference is that I pay myself a salary now. So I'm on the payroll, right? And when you're on the payroll, you only get self-employment tax for the money that is coming out for payroll. And you can also pay yourself in dividends, which are owner's distributions and things like that. So just to shorten that up right there, self-employment tax, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is now, but it's like 23.4%. So if, I make $1 million, if I net $1 million in my company and I'm just an LLC and I'm running that whole entire $1 million through my company, all right, I now get taxed at 23.4% or whatever it might be. I'm off by a little tiny percentile, maybe. Or maybe that's right in the button. But so anyways, I'll get taxed on the whole 23.4%. We're just going to call it that for the sake of the podcast. On that whole entire $1 million. If I'm just an LLC and I'm running everything through that. So now what happens is this. Is now I say, okay, a reasonable salary, because you have to determine what a reasonable salary is for you. You cannot say, hey, a reasonable salary for me is $10,000, because presidents of companies do not make $10,000 a year. And the IRS is definitely going to say something. You may be subject to an audit, which would be extraordinarily painful, and it happens all the time. So I had to establish what a reasonable salary for me was. So let's just say, I'm just going to throw out a round number. So it's $100,000, let's say. So I'm going to pay myself $100,000 a year. Now, instead of getting taxed on the $1 million for self-employment tax, I only get taxed on the $100,000 for self-employment tax that I have paid myself. Now, if I paid myself in any dividends, if I'm like, oh, wow, $100,000 didn't quite cut the cake here, I got to move some money with an owner's distribution, which is basically I'm just transferring money from my business bank account into my personal account, like an infusion of cash. Now I will get I will be subject to the self-employment tax on any additional dividends or owner's distributions that I pay myself. So really important, guys. I mean, that equates to $25,000, $30,000 worth of savings for me per year. I still have all the levels of protection there that I need. And there's also other business structures that you can do, a C Corp and things like that. So I kind of did everything backwards. I waited till shit hit the fan, and then I had all this stuff registered. So don't do that, guys. If you're struggling to do that right now and you do not have a business structure in place, go talk to an attorney. It does not cost a lot of money. You could even do it yourself, through the state website, whatever state that you're in, wherever you may be listening. You could do it yourself with a little bit of research, or you could pay a little bit of research, or you could pay an attorney, maybe $400 or $800 to get this done. But it's super important, guys, and without that stuff, I would have never have been able to have grown. Because now that I got my business license, guys, and I have my company registered as an LLC, I have general liability insurance. Don't have workers' comp yet, because I'm like, man, I can't afford that right now. So now that I got these 3 different things in place, now I can finally go to the bank. You know, I have a FEIN number, an federal employment identification number for tax purposes. I got all that stuff and my GL policy number. I could take that and I could bring it to my bank now. And now, for the first time in many years, it must have been 10 years, I actually have a bank account. Because before that, the Life's Beacon was holding my money. The halfway house, the recovery house, the life skills house. They were my bank. So now, guys, I got all these different things in place. I got the business bank account. And throughout my career, I will be asked for my FEIN number over and over again, my business license numbers, my legal structures, working with banks, working with townships, working with really big commercial outfits. All this stuff is necessary and will come into play. But that's all I got, folks, for episode number 7. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for episode number 8. Guys, if you get anything out of this, please like it, share it, and subscribe to it. See you guys.
Yeah, that's what I've been talking about right here. No doubt.
Future solutions, fencing out doors. Clip of the day, man. I'm your host from the East Coast, man. Burn your toast. Let's go.